Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fuel Fridays. This week we're in the Jace.
The parking lot.
This week we're in the parking lot of the airport with Laura Brunelle. Laura Brunelle is a dancer, choreographer, my girlfriend, the love of my life. She's also an ambassador for chemistry dance competition, and next year she'll be heading off to the CLI Conservatory in Massachusetts, headed by Teddy Florence, who is also known for lots of credits, including Gaga and Mariah Carey. Laura, welcome to the pod. Now, before we get started, Laura, we'd love to ask you something that we ask all our guests on the podcast, all one of our guests that we've had before.
A total of one, just the one. We've asked one guest this so far.
We'd like to ask you, what's the media that you've been loving recently? Movies, TV shows, music, dance pieces, theater, etc.
I recently watched the new season of Ginny and Georgia, and it honestly surprised me a lot. It used to be like this little cringy show that I usually hate watch, but this season was actually really good, and the acting was great, which, no offense, but like that's rare for this show. It had like a better storyline, and it impressed me a lot. So shout out a bunch of Canadian actors in there. Shout out to the new season of Ginny and Georgia. I can't say I always hate watched it because I do like the show and I've always been invested in it, but there's some parts that like deserve the hate that it got. Anyways, that's my rant.
Alright. Well, we're gonna move into our interview questions here.
Wasn't that technically an interview question?
Yeah, we're gonna move into the topic of the episode, which is mental health in the dance industry. Laura, our first question for you is, what do you feel is the importance of mental well-being as a dancer?
I feel like dance already is such a physically demanding sport and art that when you add the mental pressure, which obviously comes with it, and that like every dancer experiences, it can be like really hard to manage, which is why a lot of people's careers become short because they don't know how to manage the physical and mental well-being. But luckily, there's been like a lot of like new research and like new advocacy for mental well-being in the dance industry and proper training and not like overworking yourself, so to speak. Um, but yeah, I think it's just as important as your physical well-being because if you have a poor mindset, it's going to show on the stage and on the dance floor or wherever you're performing in the studio.
Great. And what would you say, like, specifically would be the impact of mental health on like a mind-body connection? Like, what is the impact of your mental health on your physical?
Well, if we're talking to extreme in like personal experiences, I am I'm recovered from anorexia nervosa. Well, recovering, I think it's always a recovery process. But there was a time where the mental health was just so bad that I could not execute stuff in the way I wanted to. Almost to a point like well, obviously when it got really bad, like I wasn't able to walk either. And it just having a poor mindset just took away the passion that I had for dance and also my ability to dance. And obviously eating disorders aren't the only thing that like shadow dance mental health wise, also like depression, whatever, different mental health. You can cut this out. I don't know what I'm saying. Um yeah, many different mental health issues can impact. It's not only eating disorders, but when you think of mental health in dancers, your mind immediately goes there. Or at least I think so. Because there is a lot of stereotypes surrounding our bodies and to look a certain way and to perform a certain way. So I just think if your mind isn't healthy, there's always mind-body connection. If your mind isn't healthy, then nothing else is gonna work. Like, I think you completely lose that mind-body connection when your mental health is poor, because you either push your body too hard or, yeah.
Yeah, I agree from like even just from an actor standpoint. I know that's something that is kind of has been unheard of in training in the past. A lot of programs are moving forward towards training artists to have a connection with their body and their physical and their spiritual, as well as their mental. What aspects of the dance industry specifically would you feel like negatively impacted dancers' health?
I don't want to like get hate for this since it's such a big part of my life and something that like I'll never forget, like an experience I'll never forget. But the biggest part of the dance industry that I think affects mental health is the competition world. And I don't want to get hate for saying that because I had like the greatest 10 years of my life. Well, some of the greatest 10 years of my life were in the dance competition world. Like, I gained so much performance experience, met so many new friends, like, created bonds with, like, my studio, my teachers, everything. But the one thing that will not go unnoticed is how much the competition world does affect your mental health. In terms of, like, comparison, favoritism, just lots of politics surrounding dance competitions in general. Like, there's so much that goes beyond the scoring of your dance that affects the outcome, which you only learn once you get out of that part of the industry. And yeah, there's just a lot of favoritism, whether it's in the studio or at the competitions. And I just don't think that it's a good measure of what you're worth as a dancer. And a lot of dancers take it that way, especially young ones. Like, for example, if they get like a high gold at one competition and they're like gonna like destroy themselves for that for like a week. Then they go to another competition and they get like premium, platinum plus whatever. And then now they feel like they're worth something again because of like some little plastic button or little ribbon or whatever. And it like completely defines their worth. Which is honestly just the opinion of 3 people on some random day in your life. On some random 3 minutes on stage. And I know from like a personal standpoint that I take it so personally when I get judged. And I took competition so personally. Like, if I didn't score the way I wanted to, I thought I was like the worst dancer on the planet, that I wasn't gonna have a career, and I just like quit. But honestly, I still think that way because I'm going into my last dance competition in a couple weeks. Going to my last national competition in a week. And I'm trying not to think that way, but that mindset will always be there since I was raised with it since I was like 7. But it's just something I'm trying to get out of because I know it's so irrational. But in the brain of a dancer, a competition dancer, those 3 minutes on stage and those opinions from those 2 judges, not little ribbon, like means the absolute world. Even though it will collect dust in like 2 years on your shelf.
Yeah. And I think like it's important to say like at the end of the day, when you walk into the audition room, nobody's gonna ask if you got like the elite, sparkle, gold. These competition award names are crazy. Elite, rose gold, platinum, sparkle dust, diamond. Like nobody's
Sounds
gonna
like
ask
a
those
My Little
questions.
Pony OC.
No, it really is.
And
It's
it's
actually
My Little
crazy at
MLP
some of these
OC.
comps.
and then it's applied to a medal, and then that sounds like what you get.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Um,
I've had some crazy awards. I'm trying to think of the craziest one.
oh, there's one comp that I went to see Laura's dance, and that the highest is titanium, but every time somebody gets a titanium, they blare like a remix of the song Titanium,
Oh
like
my
at the
god.
loudest volume they possibly can, and there's like a graphic, like a really badly photoshopped like Microsoft Paint graphic on the wall that like bounces, and it's literally like fries the speakers like it's like Titanium.
Oh my god.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, what's the craziest
Also,
award name?
I do that because a lot of people probably know what that competition is.
Pardon?
No hate, because a lot of people probably know what competition that is.
No, no hate. It's just as a person who doesn't know anything about dance, that was like my first.
People,
You know what?
because
That was
I
the
don't.
first competition. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my first introduction to the competition. Like I had never
Oh
been
my,
to a dance competition before. Or no, I went to the one in like February,
That
and
was
then yeah. Next question is so who are some people that you look up to in the dance world?
I'm gonna get all corny. Not corny. I'm just gonna get all like mushy and say my big sister, Emily Brunelle. She's basically what got me into like competitive dance. Obviously, we both like our parents just put us both in dance, but she obviously went into competitive dance first, and she obviously went to post secondary for dance first. Um, yeah, she's just done so much, and I look up to her so much, and I've looked up to her like all my life. And I'm just so grateful that I had that role model growing up because I feel like a lot of people just have to navigate stuff on their own, like she did, because she didn't have an older sibling to look up to. But she just helped me so much with my own journey through this industry, especially since I'm moving away and getting ready to move away. And yeah, I love my sister.
Also, I love your sister. She's very cool.
Also,
Maybe
my dance teacher, sorry. My dance teachers from Titanium Arts Lab. Much
shout
love,
out.
much love to all of them. I've definitely grown into like more of a dance, not more of a dancer, but like I guess so. Yeah, like I've expanded my repertoire a lot. Um, improved my technique a lot. It was also just like a much more nurturing environment than what I was previously used to, where I felt like I was pushed hard enough, but I also wasn't like beat down or in like a toxic environment, so you say. And that goes to like that goes for like the people that you're with. It's not always just the teachers. It goes for like the people on the team. So the entire Titanium family has greatly changed me and my outlook on competitive dance and studio life. I obviously still have my opinions like the last, but I think if you're with a really good studio and one that like builds you up instead of trying to break you down, then I think your experience with competition dance can be very different. Um, but yeah, I'm just very grateful I found them in my last year of competitive dance because I was previously unhappy. And I've loved every dance teacher that I've had in my life, but it gets to a point where um it goes beyond than just your instructors. It goes where your peers are not building you up or supporting you either. And that's the difference I found with Titanium is that everybody built each other up instead of tearing each other down.
And what is it like to try to like produce art, especially being so young in an environment where there is a lot of negativity and a lot of tearing each other people down? I imagine it's like detrimental to your growth as well as just your passion for the sport and art.
Well, obviously I don't deal with that anymore, but previously it also became hard to walk through the studio doors every day because I felt like the only people that supported me were my teachers, which obviously main thing, but also there was only just so many of them, and I also dealt with so much stuff outside of the studio, um, that made it hard to walk in every day and do what I love. So dealing with different people outside of my studio and then having to deal with them in the studio as well, even though I had a safe space with teachers that I loved. Um, it was just very hard.
But is that detrimental to your like passion at a young age?
I've never lost passion for dance, but I've lost passion for the places that I've danced into because of the people I was with,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like
Um,
most years of my life, like when I was dancing competitively with my sister, like those were some of like the funnest years of my like
yeah.
childhood. But the second that I became older, the competition started, like competitiveness between peers, and it got to a point where I felt like almost targeted and that like nobody wanted to see me succeed anymore, except for obviously my teachers, but I didn't feel supported by anybody else. Um, and I just felt like I couldn't grow in that environment anymore because so many people wanted to see me fail. Um, so I had to move to somewhere that did want to see me grow, both my peers and my teachers.
So I just wanted to touch on a bit of like you have a big family, and like a lot of them come to your stuff. Like I've seen your family everywhere; they're very supportive. What has been the importance for you of like having a family that is supportive to your craft?
Obviously, there's no way I would be where I am without my family. Like, they are my lifeline. Like, quite literally, like, especially my mom. Um, they just go to the ends of the earth for me, and they're like, do anything to make ends meet to send me to this conservatory in the fall, to put me through competitive dance, which we all know is not cheap exactly, but I don't know. They've always just seen something in me that sometimes I didn't even see it myself, and have always pushed me and supported me with anything I wanted to do.
I think in like acting, there's definitely discrepancies sometimes with people like I don't think it's problematic to say this, and if it is, then sue me. But there's discrepancies with people getting ahead because of their connections and because of monetary gain and, because of being more wealthy or having more connections or even looking a certain way, being, white, being cis, being straight, male, whatever. And obviously, it's a difficult thing and a discouraging thing as somebody who's not some of those things to feel like other people are just getting ahead for something other than talent. I want to touch on that and like what's your experience with that kind of favoritism.
I think that touches down again to the competition world. There, like I said, there's like a lot of politics involved in just competitions in general. Like, who brings in the most money? Who knows this studio? Who owns this studio that knows one of the judges? Who owns the studio that knows the competition? Maybe the competition, also the people running the competition also have a studio, which obviously we can only hope that everybody remains professional when they're in a competition environment. But at the end of the day, their favoritism is always a thing, and biasness is always a thing, and you kind of just have to brush it off.
Yeah.
Even in dance studios too. Like, depends on like who does the most private, who does the most like groups, who involves themselves the most with the studio, or who brings in the most awards, who makes them look good. A lot
Yeah.
of studios have that mindset, and I think it's something that we as an industry have to grow out of, because we're not making dancers, like we're not building artists anymore in the competition industry. We're just building narcissists, and it's easy for other people to lose passion when they don't feel like they're enough.
Yeah. For sure. No, yeah, definitely. And touching on, your favorite things, what are some of your favorite styles of dance?
I love contemporary and lyrical and jazz and ballet. I love ballet. I love going to see ballets. Ballet is just one of my favorite things to practice now. Um, I just love ballet so much. I think I have to give credit to loving ballet. I learned to re-love ballet so much to my ballet teacher, Jasmine McDonald, which, well, we can link her.
Yeah, I can
Maybe
put that for sure.
she is um a ballet influencer, and she also happens to be my dance teacher, which I'm very grateful for, because I can basically just take her wisdom or whatever and her videos and all of her words and classes like everywhere I go, which I'm going to be so grateful for when I move away, because I'll still be able to listen to her videos and follow her videos. But yeah, I love my ballet teacher with all my heart. And especially coming back from an eating disorder, ballet is kind of the most hardest thing to get back into, because of the amount of stereotypes surrounding your body type, and just like how you perform, what you look like performing, just in general. Like, ballet is a very aesthetic type of dance, which I find is why it's losing its popularity in this new world where people are trying to shift focus to mental health. But I don't think ballet is the problem. I think people's mindsets towards ballet is the problem. And I have to thank my beautiful ballet teacher, Jasmine, for teaching me that and teaching me to fall back in love with ballet.
So I was just wondering, like, do you feel like the dance industry has forgotten ballet? And if so, like, what do you believe is the importance of keeping it alive?
Mm. Oh, I love this question so much, but I also don't want to get like canceled. Um,
You don't have to answer anything. You can always
I think
pass.
ballet obviously is not the foundation of all dance, as opposed to what people are taught. Like, there are many different cultural dances. Like, that's just such a broad statement, and I don't think that's an accurate statement to say ballet is the base of all dance. But when we're thinking of like conventional competition dances, like jazz, lyrical, it all does stem from ballet technique. And I think a lot of people in this new dance competition era are losing sight of that and are focusing on more freestyle and like spastic um, forms of dancing, which don't get me wrong, it's really cool, and I wish I could do that. Like I wish I could move the way some people do. But I think a lot of people, like I've been in so many classes where people just like dread ballet and they hate it so much. And they make it like so known that they hate ballet so much. But I think it's such a good foundation for the basis of like um competition styles like jazz, lyrical, whatever. And there's a lot of one of my favorite things. I think I heard it in a convention class once, and they say when you're dancing to just take a breath and focus on what you've learned at the bar. In like obviously certain styles doesn't apply, but I've carried that so much in my dancing because it's easy to get lost and lose control of yourself. And I think a lot of dances, often it's getting more popularized to just freestyle, which don't get me wrong, I love freestyle. I think it's so cool. I just think ballet is very important and people are losing sight of its importance in this day and age. Like a lot of people like will just be like, oh, it's just ballet class. Like we can just get ballet class. We'll show up to jazz class though. We'll show up to jazz technique class though. But they don't realize that those things go hand in hand. Like jazz, lyrical, ballet, certain forms of contemporary, they go hand in hand. And if you don't have that foundation when you're performing these styles, then I just think it just shows so much compared to someone who does take like pride and determination in their ballet training.
Yeah. And on top of, dancing, you also, I know, choreograph a little bit and teach a little bit. You do. Don't be humble. What's the difference between like a performance mindset versus like a teaching choreographic mindset, and what are things that you take as a performer into each of those fields?
I feel like I can't really answer this question because I teach babies. Like I teach baby ballerinas. But I do think it's important, like when you're teaching such a young age, is to build a positive mindset in them and um just teach them in ways that maybe you weren't teach growing up, like teaching them to be positive about their bodies, not to compare themselves to anybody else, making sure that they are like built up instead of tore down, giving them um constructive criticism, corrections, instead of tearing them down. I think a lot of it comes from my experience of what I've watched other people experience grow up and how it affects them as they get older. Like for someone who grew up at a toxic studio, um, they would grow up and they almost have like anxiety whenever a teacher yells at them or raises their voice a little bit at them because they think they're the worst dancers in the world. And it makes them feel so small when at the end of the day, maybe that teacher is just trying to like, oh, just like straighten your leg or just like point your feet a little bit. They'll take it so personally remembering what they were treated like as a child. That makes sense. So when I'm teaching, I always try to give criticism and obviously give corrections to my dancers in the best way possible, in the nicest way possible, because I know how it can affect them growing up. Like a 3-year-old doesn't need to be like clapped in the face and like yelled at like 50 times to point their toes, because that just like won't happen. Like they're probably just gonna be like playing with their dress on stage. Like it's not that it's not that deep at the end of the day. Even with competition dancers, like at the end of the day, some of these kids are just like 7, 8 years old. They go home and they play with Barbies. Like they're just kids. And I think that's what a lot of people need to realize is at the end of the day, these kids are just kids. And it's important to instill from a young age that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to learn from your mistakes. And it's okay to be yourself and not compare yourself to anybody. It's okay to maybe look different from somebody. But it's important to build each other up instead of tearing each other down.
Yeah.
That was a yap session, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's what it's all about. You're really pretty, by the way. Just want to throw that in there.
How
And
often do you say that a day, Brennan? Do you have a counter for that?
no, a good amount probably.
Yeah, every time you say it, just in the corner, like of your glasses or whatever, there's just like a little counter that says that and 1.
It's true though.
Yeah.
My next question. How did you get so beautiful? I'm just kidding. Unless you want to answer that, but that's not the real question. Um, yeah, I would say like too is like as an actor versus like a director. Like not that I have a whole bunch of experience directing, but times I have directed, it's like the mindset's very different. Or like producer mindset versus writer mindset versus like what's the difference for you like choreographically as a performer who also choreographs? What are things about being someone who's been a performer for a very long time that help you to choreograph?
Okay. I think it's just what I take with me is that growing up performer and learning from a bunch of different people, I know how I like to be taught and I know how I retain choreography and I know what tricks help me, but I also know that everybody is different. So I like to get to know everybody who I'm working with, whether I'm just with them for 2 days or I'm with them for like 2 years. Um, I think it's important to know who you're choreographing for, because I've had experiences where I've been given choreo that is just not me at all. And obviously, it's fun to step out of your comfort zone and everything, but I think it's important to really it doesn't matter how many time you have with the person or the group that you're choreographing for. You just have to make it the most personal as possible, and not like if you have a bunch of like pieces that need to get done, you don't just treat them like another number that you need to get done. Is Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know how to answer that question.
Oh, that's good.
You can keep
And
some.
then, okay. And I was wondering, what are some like habits that you feel like you bring over from being a dancer that maybe don't age you when you choreograph? Like, what are things that you realize? Oh, I need to be in a choreographer mind right now. Choreographer mind.
The perfectionism mindset of being a performer, and I can't have that perfectionism in mind as a dance teacher, because at the end of the day, nobody is perfect, and whatever you're choreographing is not going to be perfect. It'll be amazing, but there's no such thing as perfection. you need to get that out of your head when you're performing, is that everybody's different and nobody is going to do choreography like the exact way that you want it to be. And you can't get mad at them for that, because at the end of the day, when you're the choreographer, you're just like, you kind of just lay down the skeleton and everybody else just fills that in. Your dancers fill that in. Like, you, at the end of the day, like, you're just like, if they give you like a coloring page, like, you have, like, just say metaphorically, if you had like a coloring page in front of you, somebody made that design for you, and it's up to you to color it in. Just like as a choreographer, you lay down choreography, but it's up to the dancers to color it in. Then obviously you set it a certain way, but you can't focus on every single little detail, because at the end of the day, you're never going to be happy with it, and then your students are never going to be happy with you, because you're never going to be happy with them and what they produce for you. There's always room for improvement, and I think that's another teaching moment when you're choreographing. After each performance, whether you're doing it once or a bunch of times, you want them to come off stage saying, that was amazing, and how can I grow from this? What can I do? Instead of just like being like, oh, I didn't like lift my finger at this part of the dance, or like I didn't tilt my head at like a 36-degree angle.
Yeah. And I know they always say, like, a performer is in their most vulnerable state right after a performance. Like, in general, you should never give feedback to somebody right after they come off stage. And so, what is something that you would say to somebody who's, like, a performer and they're just like, man, I love performing, but every time I get off stage, I just can't shake the feeling that what I did sucked. Like, what is advice you give to somebody that just can't feel good about what they are producing?
Honestly, I don't even feel like I can properly give somebody advice for that, because I'm the exact same way. But I know it's irrational. And I know I shouldn't think like that. But I think it's important to think, instead of, oh, I messed up. If you have that feeling of, oh, I messed up, I think it's important to shift that feeling to, how can I grow from this? Or, that was the best I could do today, but I'm improving every day.
Okay, everybody, that was Laura Brunelle. Any final comments, Laura?
No.
Great. Thanks so much for coming on the pod. We love you. I love you.
Yeah.
Very much. And I will talk to you. Pardon?
Just thank you for having me. That's my final comment.
Yeah, you're welcome, I guess. Never again. Just kidding.
Yeah.
See you next week.